the Fight Stalker Australia. I'm here in Melbourne with Sam Greco. So we're going to have a bit of a catch up, and for anyone that's up and coming in combat sports, Sam's an awesome person to get a bit of history from. You know, he's been there since the beginning. So yeah, I just want to let you guys know who don't know Sam, and those who do, who are always interested to hear what you've got to say as well.
Thank you.
How you going?
I'm really good, yeah.
Yeah,
really
good.
Pleasure having you out here.
Yeah, that's good. I didn't think I was going to get time to stop in, so I'm awesome that I looked at my timetable and went, yes, I've got this spot free. So
there you go. It's really amazing what you can do.
Yeah. So can you first, I guess, give some people a bit of a background from when you very first started in martial arts and what you started doing and what year that was?
Yeah, look, I've been in the game nearly 36 years now, and I started with traditional karate, Kyokushin, full contact bare knuckle karate, and I'm going back in the 70s.
Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
mid to late 70s, sorry, and that's where I started. I started in a little place in Brunswick, for those of you who know Brunswick, Melbourne. Literally, there was 20 students. You could literally fit just 20 students in this small little hall that we're at. Yeah, that's where it all started. That's where my foundation sort of grew from there. Leading into the 80s and 90s, started competing. And I must say, before I even go ahead, I actually didn't enjoy karate when I first started.
Oh, really?
For the first 2 months, yeah, I was not forced. So it was something that my parents wanted me to do, especially Dad, because he shared a resemblance with karate, such as, you know, discipline and integrity and everything else. And he wanted me to learn from a self-defense point of view. But I was playing soccer at the time. But look, I did do it, and after about a month, I started taking this liking for some unknown reason. I started seeing people progressing, and my knowledge was actually getting better even as a youngster. And I always wanted to improve and go to that next belt, you know.
Yeah.
And it was just amazing, and I just took a love for it. It was beautiful. It was one of those things that, you know, till this very day, it's become my backbone to my success. You know, throughout my kickboxing, MMA, business, whatever it may be, structurally, it's been the foundations. You know, so it started all back in the 70s for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And when did you start doing kickboxing?
I started kickboxing in the 90s. Basically, what I did, I basically pretty much cleaned up my own backyard with full contact karate. You know, won state titles 6 in a row, run, you know, national titles 6 in a row, and there was nowhere for me to go except for overseas. So I did take the option of going over fighting the world tournament, did extremely well in the world tournament, made a name for myself. Didn't win the world tournament there and then, but I went back and fought in another world tournament, Seido Kaikan world tournament, which is a breakaway from Kyokushin, ended up winning the world tournament there. And it was that time in the early 90s that I thought, you know what, I think I've had enough of karate. It'll still be the backbone, like I said to you before, but I want to make the transition to kickboxing because I was teaching kickboxing. And I thought, what better way to do it when I'm teaching is give someone an insight, the actual experience of what it's like getting punched in the face and so on. So that's what I did. I promised myself one fight and I ended up having too many after that, like always, you know.
You had something like 30-something fights?
Yeah, I did. Look, you know, I got a professional record over 3 disciplines. That's full contact karate, kickboxing and MMA, of 147 fights. So,
oh my God.
Yeah, altogether, right. Over 3 disciplines,
Yeah, which, out of all of them, which one is your love?
Do you know what? When you say love, love is the one that supports life in general, and that's been my traditional martial arts.
Yep.
It's the foundation. But what I love today is still kickboxing, K1 kickboxing. It was basically family. It was we're at the pinnacle, and I was very fortunate to be part of that family and still am. And you know, I wish I could turn back the clock, and it was really hardcore fighters then, you know.
What's the biggest difference that you can see from back then to fighters today, or even the scene today?
Look, you know, the scene today has changed dramatically, depending on what country you're in, to be quite honest. You know, I'm talking from Australia point of view, how I see the scene. The scene's very, very general. There's nothing specific about the scene, you know, and that's probably sad because, you know, there should be platforms and there should be, you know, how can I say it, criterias, you know, and they have to be enforced, and you'll get the best out of people because then people will know exactly what they need, you know. And I knew, for example, when I started kickboxing, I couldn't get what I wanted to get out of Australia, but I had to leave Australia to go and source my information and train with the best to be the best, you know, and to compete against the best. has Australia got legs? Meaning, can Australia do? Australia can do extremely well. We just need to get off our high horse and not be afraid to learn and not be afraid to be told by other people.
That's it. And how do you think we can better learn and take in that information, or who's better to?
Do you know what? I'm at a stance. Even now in my life, I'm happy to listen to anyone. And if someone's going to criticise, make it constructive. Tell me how I can fix it. And don't give me your opinion based on just what you like. Just tell me about how we're going to help this organisation, or how we're going to help this art, this martial arts. I think martial arts will be around for life, but it could slowly deteriorate if we're not careful, by stupidity. And I just think that if we all put our guards down and say, okay, how can we make martial arts in Australia a greater place? I think it'll be a better family.
That's it.
And we need to be family orientated. Unfortunately, the egos, and it's not just Australia, it's around the world too, but if we can be one of the first to, put our guards down and say, okay, how can we make kickboxing, or how can we make martial arts better for this generation now, we'd be a lot better off. And you know what? And it isn't the big things, it's the small things that make the big difference.
Yeah, and what are some of the things that you would love to see people, I guess, changing or improving on?
Yeah, I think professionalism, whether it be in an amateur status or at a higher level as an adult. I think having that professionalism, teaching people how to fight is one thing, teach them, techniques is another, but teaching the professionalism, teaching the entertainment aspect, how they conduct themselves outside the ring is more important than how they conduct themselves inside the ring. Yeah. Because, we talk about the fight game being where it is today, and we're branded unfortunately by the media, unfortunately, as thugs. It comes from just some, how can I say it, some really terrible happenings, in society, and that's what we get branded for. And I just say, a fighter out there, to train hard is one thing, to get in front of a mic or in front of the media and to be diplomatic about things, give back to the community as much as it's given you throughout your career, that sort of stuff, and get involved with charities and get behind campaigns and and be professional in all aspects of life, even the way you dress when you go to press conferences and so on. Show them that you're truly a professional athlete. Being a fighter isn't just about the kicking and punching. It's more to do with the outside, and how people perceive you.
That's it. Yeah. Tell us about we spoke on the phone before, and you were telling me about your sort of experience in was it Japan? And the media and press over there. Tell us a little bit about that, so people got an insight of international press or what it was like back then.
Yeah, it was quite interesting when I first went to Japan. I thought fighting was the punching and the kicking was the ultimate, was the be all end all. But we got called into a press conference pre-fight. It was one of my first press conferences, and we did get a letter stating. The criteria of what they expected from us, for that particular day. And one of the things was to wear pants and shirt and a jacket. And if you wanted to wear a tie, you could wear a tie. It was optional. I went with a really good pair of pants. I call them jeans. They weren't ripped or anything. And I went with a beautiful shirt and a jacket. I got there, they wouldn't let me in, and they took me away to one of their tailors / suit people and put me in a pair of pants and another jacket, and then I was allowed into the press conference. And looking back at it now, I really understand what they mean. They're very forceful in what they want. They want a particular look because they have sponsors who are sponsoring events, and they want us to conduct ourselves in a way that's very professional. And that's why people want to get behind organisations such as, unfortunately, they don't want to be dealing with bad people or thugs or,
Or people that are misrepresent their brand.
Exactly right. And if we could implement that from the grassroots, from just your dojo, from your coach telling you that sort of stuff, that's a great start. But the unfortunate thing is, and I see it quite a bit, and I'm not pointing fingers at anyone, but or any particular people, but it's that key element that education. I use the term education starts at home. It doesn't start at school. So. But when we get to the stage where we are at school meeting your dojo, that's where your coach is going to go, hey, you know what, we've got a press conference coming up, make sure you're clean, make sure you're well represented, make sure you've got your things in place.
Yeah, that's really great, because that's one thing, to try to bring more sponsors into the sport to help support the athletes and the shows and the whole industry, having that kind of press presence for everybody. It doesn't even matter how small the show might be, is the way I guess that it's going to be more successful in bringing sponsors in than people wanting to support industry.
If I'm a sponsor, you've got to give me a reason for me to want to get on you, meaning, you know, sponsor you, you know, and why I want you to fly my flag for my company,
Exactly.
indirectly or directly. I just think there's a lot more opportunities. I don't know whether the country itself is naive, or the fighters are naive, or coaches are naive. You know, don't let these opportunities escape. You know, we could put so much more money into the industry, into the martial art industry, make the fighter more wealthy, make the industry more wealthy. You know, we've got funds to work with. You know, and I think we'll all reap from it. You know, there shouldn't be no form of jealousy at the end of the day, because the truth of the matter is, at the end of the day, when you step through those ropes, there is no jealousy. You're on your own.
That's it.
You're on your own. You've got to fight your own battle out there.
For sure.
It's not a team. It's unfortunately, when you step through those ropes, it isn't a team playing. It's a one-on-one.
That's right. You can't just punt the ball to someone else. Can you do it?
Exactly. You know, or can you jump in and fight for me? You know, so to speak.
Unless you're doing the tag team.
Yeah. So you know, it's just one of those things that. Do I believe the sport has got future to grow, or a prospect to grow? Oh, immensely. You know, and I see other countries that are just rolling that ball, and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and we're just, I don't know what's wrong with Australia. I really don't, but I wish we could fix it. I really wish.
I think it needs to be a culture shift, and that's a massive and hard thing to do when it's something that's sort of been there for so long. You know, is trying to change a culture. It's not something that can happen overnight, is it?
Don't you like to change a culture because you want to make things better?
Correct.
Don't you? And part of it's education, and sometimes you need to take that old horse and bring him back in and try and educate him. Whether you're going to get through or not is one thing.
Yeah.
But it's worth a try.
For sure.
You know, it's worth a try. I'm at a point in my life now. You know, I go out to MMA events and kickboxing events and boxing events. You know, and first of all, I'm always self-critical first. You know, before I pass on something else. But you know, I look at events and I look at shows and I think to myself, you know, why isn't this happening? You know, why aren't the fighters looked after better? You know, why is it the promoters doing this? And I understand promoters have got bills to pay and everything else, but I think at the end of the day, it's the fighters that are flying their flag. It's not the promotion flying its own flag.
Yeah.
Because without fighters, there wouldn't be a promotion. Full stop. And I'm saying look after the fight. I'm not saying increase their bank accounts by $1 million, because it just doesn't exist in Australia.
Right.
We have a minute. We're only minute compared to the AFL or the NRL and so on. But it doesn't mean we have to still lie in the gutters. You know, we can still get up. You know, we can still get up and show and occasionally make a voice and make it loud enough that everyone hears.
I like that.
You know,
That's awesome.
but we don't want to do it. We're just happy and happy to be in that dojo, happy to train and happy just to fight, and the coaches will go on and do their work. It makes me sad, because I just think we have got potential to be one of the greats.
Yeah.
You know, you know, we really do. There's no buts or ifs. I think if everyone puts in, and if everyone lets down that guard and says, okay, let's all work together, it'd be fantastic.
Wouldn't it?
It'd be awesome.
Yeah,
It'd be awesome.
sure.
Will it happen? Don't know.
That's it. Yeah.
I don't know. But I think, you know, every day that goes by, we're missing out.
That's right. And I guess it comes down to every single person, you know, wanting that same goal and all wanting to band together and work hard for it, rather than kind of just standing by and letting what's happening happen.
Yeah. It's just, look, it's just one of those things. Complacency is like cancer. It'll eventually, it will kill the sport. It will kill it. You know, it'll bring it straight to the ground. It'll make it lay on its back, believe it or not. So, you know, sometimes you need a kick in the backside, you know.
Yeah. Is there anything that you've seen over your, was it 36 years, that whole time that you've seen that's grown, that you've loved about where it is today?
Yeah, look, just the evolution itself, you know, of martial arts, how it's transformed now into MMA. You know, years ago, if you'd asked me about MMA, I was like, oh, no, I'm not really a big fan of it. But I'm actually a huge fan of MMA in general. It's not about the UFC either. It's about MMA. It's about encapsulating an individual with every conceivable art all in one. And going out there trying to dominate, and I think it's great. You know, the untrained eye will look at it and see these guys rolling on the ground. They think, "Oh, get up, guys!" You know, but excuse me, they don't appreciate what's happening.
The art behind it.
For the trained eye, you do appreciate it. So I think the evolution of martial arts is going at a very rapid rate. You know, We've just got to be able to tag on.
That's it.
That's what we need to do. That's what we need to do. Look, it's getting there slowly, I think. And you know yourself, MMA has pretty much dominated the world at the moment.
It,
it really has. It's the in thing. It's the in thing. But let's not lose sight of what actually makes MMA. And I was interviewed many years ago, and someone asked me about MMA, and I said, without K1, without kickboxing, without Muay Thai, without BJJ, without wrestling, without judo, and so on and so on, you wouldn't have mixed martial arts.
It.
You know,
do you remember when it first came in? How was that?
You know, the transition. I was in Japan at the time, and I remember when UFC just had bought Pride, and the transition. I'd seen the first UFC event, and I thought, God, this is brutal. K1 tried to get involved in that, and they hosted their first event in a cage, and they had this big cage come down over the ring, so it was square.
Oh, so they were even doing that back then?
Yeah,
right.
they did it back then, and the guys who were fighting were two Americans. It was Chemo versus Patrick Smith. And it was opening the show. They basically opened the show before us. K1 fighters went out. So they lowered this cage down. And I must admit, with the cage coming down over the ring, looking at it from the outside, especially the change rooms, I thought, this is going to be brutal. You know, this is going to be brutal. I could just imagine them throwing away the keys until these guys just end up killing each other. But they both got in there, and Chemo absolutely slaughtered Patrick Smith, just cut him open with headbutts and you name it. You laid a headbutt then and so on. And then the referee was on the outside, eventually jumped in.
Oh, right.
Yeah, jumped in, stopped the fight. It was all over. You know, and there's Chemo running around with blood pouring down his face, you know, screaming at the crowd, go, yeah, I'm the champ. It looked barbaric, I must admit. It really did. You know, and for guys like myself who performed an art, I call it an art compared to what that was then because I didn't understand it. You know, I thought, this is going to kill the sport. You know, this is really going to kill the sport. You know, there's people for years have been against, you know, pit bulls fighting in cages, and now we've got humans fighting in cages. Yeah, I mean, the fight game has been around for centuries and centuries, but God, this is to the extreme. And we got asked at the back, they said, what'd you think? And I said, oh, God, I don't even want to go out there. There's blood all over the canvas. Why would I want to go out there? But that was the first and last time that K1 actually had it as an intro. Right. And then UFC was coming in. Pride was fighting those rules in the ring rather than the cage.
Yep.
But that transition was back in the I think it was early 90s that they were making. And God, they haven't looked back ever since. You know, it's just been snowballing bigger and bigger and bigger, and they've implemented the rules, you know, that you can't headbutt, you can't groin strike, you can't eye gouge, you can't fish hook, any of that stuff. So, yes, they are cleaning up the sport. It's regulated now. Yep. It's regulated by, you know, the Drug Commission and the Sports Commission itself. Government has a lot to do with it too. So, you know, and I think UFC, they've got a monopoly on the whole world.
For sure.
You know, there's no real actual competition that's actually a threat. So they can pretty much do what they want to do, and they do. They've grabbed the bull by the horns and they're running with it.
Yep.
You know, here's a company that I remember they bought for I think it was 2.2 million or something. It's worth $5 billion today.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it really is.
Wow.
It really is. But there's the evolution. That's where it's going. Where it's going to go in the next 10 years, I don't know. But you know, UFC in general are really concentrating on some great fighters, but also more of the entertainment aspect.
Yes.
They need people to be a spokesperson. They need people to be charismatic. They need people to have a gimmick, you know, because that's what sells. That's why sponsors want to get involved, and they've seen that. You know, they've seen that, and I think it's great. You know, I think it's something that all sports should look at. You know, when I say all sports, all martial arts sports should look at. But as I said to you, we're too busy concentrating on, you know, I want to be the fighter. That's not what the fighter's just made up of. It's not about punching and kicking. You know,
it's the whole.
Yeah, it's the whole thing.
Package,
yeah, it's what I'm going to say it again. It's what you do. What's more important is what you do outside the ring than what you do inside the ring, and how you conduct yourself.
That's it. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Can you also give us a bit of background, because you've had some epic fights in your career? Can you tell us maybe the top three and give us a little bit of a rundown on what your, I guess, three standout fights for you? Doesn't matter what discipline.
My probably one that stands out is actually one of my losses, to be honest. It wasn't about a win. Peter Ertz, one of the greats of K1 and you know, K1 and kickboxing around the world, and massive name. Still around today, a very good friend of mine. I fought Peter twice, and my second fight of my career, and I mean with no kickboxing experience, the Japanese said to me, we'd like you to fight Peter Roadshow. And I go, who's Peter Roadshow? And I had a look who he was, and I thought, oh God, here we go. And here's a guy who was an absolute at the peak of his career. And, I fought because of the karate spirit, and that's what it was based on. Because Kazuyoshi Ishii, who was the head of K1, and also the head of Seido Kaikan, which was the breakaway from Kyokushin, his dream was, in throughout even all his career, that he knew that a traditional karate fighter could beat a professional kickboxer.
Right.
If he put his mind to it. And so guys like Andy Hug, and the great Andy Hug, the late Andy Hug, I should say, very good friend of mine, and myself, Michael Thompson, we all come from a karate background, joined Seido Kaikan, and we took on the kickboxers. And, I had nothing to be ashamed of. I fought Peter Roadshow, no experience. Peter dropped me, I think it was in the third round with two body shots twice. I got back up and fought on. But that fight there, even though it was a loss, it actually established exactly who I was, because the Japanese fans absolutely love me. Someone who gets knocked down and has the will to get up and fight, that's what they want to see. And I remember Peter Roadshow making a comment after he won in the ring. He says, he'd have to be one of the hardest opponents I've fought to date. And I was proud of that. I fought him again a few years later. Now with a bit more experience. And it's just one of those things, I don't know whether you've had it in your career, but it's funny the way K1 worked. I could beat you today, and then you could fight another guy, and he'd beat you, and I fought that guy, and he'd beat me. And so it was just, it was like Scrabble everywhere. Everything was everywhere. And it was amazing. I fought Peter the second time. In the first round, had an epic first round, had a 10-8 round with him. And or 10-9 round, sorry, with him. And in the second round, come out, I was on fire, caught him with the right hand, but caught him on the forehead rather than the chin, tilted his head back, and he threw a right roundhouse kick, caught me flush on the ear, and just dropped me. I got back up, but I was, dancing with the wind I was. And they stopped the fight. And mind you, I couldn't hear out of this ear for 3 months, to be honest. Yeah, I had it drained and everything else. So, here's a guy that, I admired so much. I still admire him to this very day. Couldn't beat, people will probably, someone will be telling you about their wins. I'll tell you about a loss because it's epic, And then the other one is Andy Hug. Andy Hug, I fought twice, but we lived together. He was like my big brother. He used to call me little brother. Yeah, we lived together for many, many years in Japan, and we shared some great memories, and we shared the ring together. I was very fortunate. And there's another one with Andy. It was always a draw with us, but we'd punch the absolute crap out of each other, and people couldn't believe you guys are friends. Doesn't matter. It was business at the end of the day,
That's it.
Into that. And then the world title, one of my WAK world titles, was probably the most epic because of the fact that my preparation was phenomenal. I was back in Australia preparing for it. I was fighting Mike Bernardo. Mike Bernardo, massive puncher, massive puncher, and one of the greats of K1. The late Mike Bernardo, I should say. But 3 weeks before the event, my dad was admitted to hospital at the time, had heart complications, and had to undergo, immediate bypass surgery. All 5 of them done, so pretty much put me on the back burner. And 3 weeks out, I said to my trainer, I'm not going anywhere. And he says, no, I agree with you, family first. And he says, we can fight for a world title another time. And then through the blessing of my dad, when he came out of the surgery, he came out well. The first thing my dad asked me, he goes, how's your training going? I said, it's not, Dad. I said, I'm not going anywhere, so I basically want to concentrate on family first. I can always fight another world title. I'm not going to get this opportunity with you ever again.
Exactly,
and, I might not, And he was adamant that he wanted me to go, and he said to me, son, just do it for me,
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
I sort of sat on it for a few days without saying anything to him. I spoke to my trainer. My trainer said family first, and I said, look, he really wants me to go. So about a week and a half out, 2 weeks out actually, we took off. And off we went, and back into Japan we settled in, and everything was fantastic. I used to keep in contact with Dad over the phone, and we took on this fight. And my preparation, as I said to you, apart from my dad being sick, was absolutely phenomenal. Was on tap, on track. Sorry. We fought the fight, and my instructions are quite simple. Don't mix any more than 4 punches with this guy, 3 or 4 punches at one given time. And I said, no problem. And I knew I was one of the fastest heavyweights at that particular time. And I knew for them to tag me, I really had to stand in front of them if that was the case. If I was cutting angles, they were never going to tag me. And I went out, I followed instructions to a certain time, and I got comfortable throwing punches and landing on this guy. And I think I threw 3 and I went to throw that 4th, a right hook, and he's hit me with a beautiful right hook and just sat me flush on my back. And it was that particular time that the whole stadium, 70,000 people, felt like everyone was submerged underwater.
Yep.
It was like a wall feeling, the wall effect. And I remember my body was like lead. And I knew my mind, at the time, my mind was saying, get up. My body just wouldn't respond. It was just heavy. And then all I could hear is, 2, 3. And I remember looking up and I could see just a silhouette because the light was behind the referee.
Yep.
See the referee doing this. And I thought, come on, man, you got to get up. And there was this piercing voice that come from the corner. It said, Sam, get up, was my trainer. And I got to one knee and I stood up on the count of 7, I think it was. And I was like a flag on a windy day. And the referee says to me, are you okay, Sam? And I turned around and I looked at him and I go, yeah. And I mean, to this very day, I've never heard a fighter being knocked down. And the referee says, are you okay? He goes, no, I'm not. I want to go home, I'm sure. Yeah. We're fighters, we're we're fighters, we're gladiators, and that's what we do best, And our job's not finished until it's over,
That's right, yeah.
So I remember Mike just took advantage and he come straight at me. I didn't know there was 20 seconds to go. And I threw a punch and a kick and I slipped over, got jelly legs. Got back up by that time, it was all done. And he was going back to his corner and I was walking back to a neutral corner. The referee grabs me and goes, no, you got to go over there.
You belong over there.
Yeah, so he rocked me substantially, And I got back to the corner and to this very day, my trainer says for the first 20 seconds he was trying to talk to me. It was like a blank canvas, until I finally came to. And he gave me his instructions and he said to me, listen, I need you to follow protocol here. I need you to do this, this and this. He says, I've got to get you to get your legs back in your head. He says, weather the storm through this round. He goes, get on your toes, stick and move, try and move off at all times, cut angles. I go, no worries. So that's exactly what I did. I followed instructions, come back for the 3rd round, and this is where it sort of all, flipped into all positive as he gave me his instructions and he says to me, right, 3rd, 4th and 5th round, he says, we've got to go to work. There's no 2 ways about it. He says, are you prepared? I said, I'm prepared for it. He goes, let's go. And as I was walking past him when I heard seconds out, he's grabbed me by the hand and he goes, hey, he says, your dad's depending on this. Oh my God, yeah, it's exactly. And I literally had a tear in my eye, And I cannot tell you, it was that ignition, that light, that spark, that honestly I just had this furnace just erupt in me. And I went out there and for 3 rounds, I just ripped him a new one. I just cut him open. I cut him open everywhere. And I knew that by the end of the 5th round, he managed to survive it, but I hit him with everything. I was hitting the guy with triple jab right hands, which is unheard of from me, back spinning kicks. And I just put on this, it was just like the brand new Sam. And I knew I'd won it in the end when my hands were raised. I go, thank you, Dad. And so that was the most epic thing and probably the biggest memory I've got from fighting on the biggest stage against the best fighters in the world,
Yeah, that's it.
So, I'm very, very grateful that I took off from Australia, even though the critics would say, can I take a punch? Can I do this in my earlier piece? Give me a break, guys. Rather than criticise me, why don't you tell me how I can fix it? Why don't you tell me how I can improve?
Yeah.
And if I tried that and I wasn't good enough, well, then I know to step down. But, don't throw fire on the ground, guys, And that's how unfortunate. In your own home, I thought I'd be more supportive. But I took off overseas and people go, they lost you to Australia. No, I always flew the Australian flag. Yep. Australia didn't lose me.
Yeah.
I always flew I always an Australian. To this very day, I still am. So I'm proud of it,
Yeah, that's awesome. There's some really good stories.
There's a lot of stories.
How does it feel to fight in front of that many people, like 70,000 people? Nobody these days would be able to even imagine doing that. Yeah,
we fought in some massive, massive crowds. I've got to say, as nerve-wracking as it was early in the piece, I actually looked forward to it. Yeah. Because I'd walk out and I'd make eye contact with crowd, or I'd make eye contact with the ring, and I knew the crowd was there, but I'd reap everything. Yep. I'd turn it into positive energy. That's exactly what I do. I really turn it into positive energy because I knew they were there for me or for the opponent or for the fight within itself, So amazing. Will we ever see those crowds again? Probably not. Yeah, probably not. K1 sort of lost its way back in 2003, 2004, where they started trying to get more into the entertainment side of it, and lost focus of the fighting side of it, and they started inviting these freak shows like the Bob Sapps of the world, who I was responsible for bringing him over, believe it or not. I must say. He was one of my guys, but 180 kilo guy who's lean, just like a beast, you know. He'd hit you with a hammer fist and hurt you. Chohoma from South Korea, you know, 7'2", big guys. But these are guys that potentially could fight but couldn't fight.
I know what you mean.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
The skill factor was not there.
They were just massive.
So they were freak shows, yeah. So it was basically like, no disrespect, it was like going to a circus.
Yes, yeah.
And the crowd wouldn't boo or anything, would laugh and smile and so on. So I could see it was detracting away from the essence of what we're all about. And that's what ruined it. I honestly believe that's what ruined it. And they just, they were putting bums on seats, but for the wrong reasons. Whereas in K1, it was amazing from when it started back in 93 till about 2002, 2003, it was hardcore fighting. I could fight Melina today and then fight her again in 3 months and that stadium would be full. Do you understand what I'm saying? And they sort of detracted from that because they started seeing the entertainment side of it and they were making more money with less effort.
Yes, right,
you know, and guys like Bob Sapp, I can tell you, Bob Sapp, you know, over a period of a certain amount of years made millions, you know, through merchandising, you know, through just TV shows and, you know, he was a freak of nature. He was just amazing. You know, great entertainer. You know, I met him when I was wrestling in America. That's how I brought him over there. You know, when the company folded in America, he had no job, so I got him over in K1. And they saw this opportunity at K1 and they ran with it. But then they started bringing all these big guys in. You know, the Akebono, was, what was he, about 200 and something kilo guy, who was the Yokozuna, who was the champion. Sumo champion. Yeah, right. They got him to fight, you know, Hoist Gracie. They got him to fight Bob Sapp. And I was coaching Bob at the time when we beat him. But it was a really bad knockout. It was a really hard knockout. And I wished upon anyone. But I didn't want to see that. But unfortunately, it's the entertainment aspect. Yes, yeah. You know? And they knew TV was going to get behind it. And they're going to make a lot of money and so on. But they forgot about the true essence of what brought K1 to its pinnacle level was... fighters like myself, the Andy Huggs, the Ernesto Hoost, the Ray Sefu, the Peter Ertz, Mike Bernardo, etc., Jerome Urbana. Those are the guys. Look, I think we fought in a golden era. Yeah. Whatever happened after that, you know, after 2004, 2005, for me is history. I'd like to think, you know, we're K1 brothers, we're a family. And today, you know, I sit here in front of you, exactly what I'm telling you. I tell everyone out there, all potential fighters that want to get in the fight game, it's a hard sport if you're really serious about it. It can be a lonely sport at the same time. You know, you might not get the support you think you originally intend to. You might not get it. You've got to wear that but just move on. And if you can't find what you're looking for in your own backyard, move forward. You know, move forward. Because I think, as I said to you, we're going to go back to what we spoke about originally. If everyone stuck together, if everyone did it for the love of, when I say the love of, if everyone did it for the benefit of the sport in terms of growth, this place would be a lot better place.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about, do you think, is there, with a fighter's mind for yourself, that you like to instill in your fighters today?
Yeah, look, I think number one is positive mindset is one of the things that I really worked on. Having direction, having a mentor is another. You know, there's fighters out there, they haven't got management, they haven't got structurally anyone to look at bar their own coach. I think someone outside your coach is important. Someone that you look up to, someone that you can turn to, or if you're doing well, they pat you on the back and they say, hey, we can do better. And if you're doing poorly because you're being cheeky or whatever, you know, you're playing up, you know, they clip you over the ears, say, listen, pull your finger out of your backside, otherwise I'm walking away, you're going to be on your own here. You know, I don't think there's enough of that done. And then letting people be who they want to be. You need direction. I was fortunate to meet good people and surround myself with good people, and I think a lot more of that should be done. You know, I had a management crew, you know, or manager that one of the first questions he asked me when he met me was, do you read? I looked at him as if he's had two heads. I go, read? Yeah, I read. He says, what do you read, Sam? I said, I read martial arts magazines, you know. He says, do you read the paper? Do you watch the news? Do you read autobiographies? I go, no, didn't feel that I had to. He says, well, if you want to succeed in life, he says, it's important to be general and not just be fight orientated.
Yeah, got you.
And the guy I'm talking about is Graham Burke. Graham Burke is actually the owner and managing director of Village Roadshow and owns all the theme parks in Queensland. Yeah,
right.
They got all the big,
what was he doing back then? Same thing?
The same thing. He was the CEO, yeah. He was CEO and managing director of Village Roadshow. Still is. I spoke to him the other day, actually. Yeah. And we're still in contact pretty much every week. And so, it was just one of those things. I was fortunate to find him at a particular time. He came looking for me. I didn't go looking for him, to believe it or not. And we gelled, and he taught me some life lessons that till this very day I implement. And like I said, it was an education. Kickboxing for me, or growing up in a career of karate, kickboxing and MMA, has been a huge, huge education. It's not about the fight, and I'm going to say it again. It's the journey.
Yeah, for sure.
I learned so much that I can implement to life.
Yep.
In general, I can sit here and talk to you about. I can talk to kids. I can talk to adults. I can talk to older people. It doesn't really matter. There's a lesson to be learnt, and I can pull things out. I just recently in 2017, January 2017, launched my own I'm a Fighter campaign. And people say, oh, that sort of stands to reason, doesn't it? Because being a fighter, Sam, you're a fighter. It's got nothing to do with that. It's the principles that.
Tell me a little bit about it.
Well, look, I'm a Fighter campaign. It sort of came out. I released a campaign in 2017. It's probably been lingering for years, but I finally come out with it. And the I'm a Fighter campaign. I love being associated with the word fighter, not because I'm rough, tough or anything, or won world titles, who cares? I mean, being a fighter for me means not giving up. It means fighting against adversity, fighting harder when the chips are down. And we're all fighting battles in life. You're fighting a battle right now that I don't even know about, and vice versa, and people out there. So you've got to be careful what you say and what you do with people. And so it's never give up, and we often hear it, but mine's with a bit more compassion, What I did throughout my karate, what I did throughout my kickboxing, what I did throughout my wrestling, what I did throughout my MMA, whatever lessons I learned through there, I actually implement them to life in general. And there's days that I get up and I feel great, and there's be days where I get up and I just feel down, absolutely down. I feel like I've been kicked in the gut and I'm in the gutter. But one of the lessons I learned, if you ever get knocked down, guys, and this goes for anyone out there, if you ever get knocked down, I'm not saying in a fight, in life in general, which is more important, because without the good life, you'll never have a good career, full stop. Or a healthy life, I should say. If you ever get knocked down, if you open your eyes and you can see daylight, you can get the fuck back up.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about it. A lot of people either expect that hand to be raised up, to help them up. Okay, it is what it is. Some people just give up on life, and this is the whole thing. It's about not giving up. It's about finding the reason why. Yeah. Rather than the reason why it's not yet, finding the reason why you should get up. Yeah. I have this thing, and I talk about it through my campaign about fear. Fear is a really big thing that people are afraid of. Obviously, they're afraid of failure. And I say to people, don't be afraid of failure, but be afraid of not trying.
Yes. Yeah, I like that.
I have no problems. I spoke about my losses. My first thing I spoke about my losses. A lot of people wouldn't talk about their loss. But that's one of the highlights in my career, because the guy I fought, it was the lessons I've learned. Yeah. So I embrace that. I embrace fear. Bring it. And I look at fear straight in the eyes and say, come on, let's do it. But I know I'm well prepared for it. I'm not stupid enough, I'm not well prepared, if that makes sense. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So your brain's going to be intact and your head's going to be on your shoulders. Yeah. So it's a preparation thing. So, embrace that. Sometimes, find the positive in the negative. There's not enough of that done.
Yeah, and having the skill to be able to do that too.
Yeah, and I talk about it from a fighting perspective. I say to people, even through the fight game, I say, hey, you know what? Getting in the ring and winning a fight and getting your hand raised is one thing. Getting in the ring and getting beaten is another. But if I've given it 100% and got beaten by Melina, I know I got beaten by a better person, something to learn from. But if I get in the ring and only given it 80%, meaning my training, my lead up, don't worry about what I did in the ring, my lead up was only been 80%, and I get beaten and say, well, I got beaten by a better person. No, you didn't get beaten by a better person. You actually beat yourself before you even started. So teaching kids and teaching adults all these things, about positive mindset and how to establish and how to, before you even take that first step forward, how to process all that and put it all together is what the I'm a Fighter campaign is. And it's about, even people who are in hospital, who are going through sicknesses, who are virtually close to dying. I talk to everyone. I talk to everyone because I believe, honestly, I've been put on this earth to help. That's what I'm about. Yeah. People can say whatever they want, but at the end of the day, I'm here to help. Yeah. I run a personal training company. I had a girl yesterday who you know, when she first came to me 6 months ago, she was basically, if she used to train, she used to train in cotton wool, so to speak.
Yeah, I know.
You know, oh, how is it? You know, oh, easy peasy, you know, and so on. And yesterday she was doing work and I slowed things down, but I really made it intense for her and I knew she was going to break. I could just see it. But I refused to release the accelerator. I thought, I'm going to stay in there. I want to see this girl. I want to see where she goes about the positive mindset. And she did. She broke. She just bawled her eyes out. And I grabbed her and I whispered in her. I said, listen, you need to stay with me right now. This is the most crucial time of your life. You'll understand it when we finish.
Yes.
And she stood there. She looked at me. She wiped her tears and she kept going. 25 minutes later, or 20 minutes later, I sat with her and she said to me, she actually wrote me a message here, which I will make you read it.
Yep.
She wrote me a message and she said, you know, that was the most exhilarating and probably one of the best experiences she's ever had.
Yep.
She never woke up that morning thinking that she was going to experience that.
Yeah, for sure.
But what I said to her, I don't care whether you fail, but what I'm concerned about is you not trying.
Yes.
Because you're going to walk out of this gym or walk out of this dojo thinking that you're a failure. You're not a failure.
Yep. Yep.
If that makes sense.
Yes, for sure.
And it's just, that was her writing to me.
Can we read it out loud?
Yeah, you can read it out loud by all means.
It says, wow, Sam, thank you for your support this morning at training. What a special moment. Tears, physical pain, emotions, all mixed together in a breakthrough moment. Now that was unexpected. I didn't know I was going to experience that when I got out of bed this morning. That's awesome.
And that's my reply, which you can read if you like.
You truly didn't. Oh, I think it's supposed to be saying did. You truly did an amazing.
Okay, I'll read it then. My English is better than hers. You truly did an amazing job. I'm proud of the fact that you stuck it out. You were hurt mentally and physically, but somehow found a way to overcome everything and finish on a high. It takes courage and sheer persistence to achieve the feeling that you achieved out of your workout today, and I applaud you in every way. Don't ever doubt yourself. Stay true to who you are. Crying is not a sign of weakness. Not finishing is.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm not interested in whether you come first, second, or anywhere for that matter. I'm more interested in not giving up, and you not giving up, even when you've got all those commotions, negative, positives, maybes, etc. going on in your head. Remember, in life, we as beautiful human beings will always find a way to finish. And today, my girl, you found it. You might have a tear in your eye as you read this, but wipe it off and say to yourself, I got this. So,
cool.
And that's what the I'm a Fighter campaign's about. It's not about making you the fittest and the best person in the world, but you know, it's not about making you a world champion, but it's about making world champion people.
That's it, here and here.
Yeah. Because if you got that, you can get on with life.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so awesome. And because I'm like you yourself too, with when people ask me about my fights, my two losses are also my favourite fights as well, because I feel like I learnt so much from it. And like you said, the person you're fighting is such an amazing person, and one of them I really looked up to as well. And I just was so happy to have shared the ring with her.
Yeah.
That to me was trumped everything else, and I had put in 100%, so I knew that I had, and I got beat by someone who was awesome. Yeah. And so that to me, I guess, it speaks volumes when I think back on things, and like nobody wants to go, oh, my favourite fight was this one just because it was easy. Who wants to, you know? Yeah.
Look, yeah, you're 100% right, and we were both on the same page there, and I just think, I do it even on my Facebook page, my personal page, and my fight page. I put down videos where I've lost too, but I'll talk about them. Yep. It's important that I talk about them because what it does, it actually releases a lot of things.
Yeah, good one.
That's what it does. It releases. If you have a look at my Sam Greco official page, you'll see against Peter Ertz, where I get knocked down and I'll get back up, but still I lose the fight. You'll see it, but I write about it. But I take you from the back. I take you into the ring. I take you through the fight, step by step, and I take you all the emotions of what's going through my head besides his foot. Besides his foot. And I think that's important. I think people need to hear a lot more of that.
100%. And that's such a eye-opening thing just for me right now. There's one fight that I had that I'm so embarrassed of that I never even posted the video of because I was that embarrassed of how I performed. I'd
like you to write about it.
Yeah, and that just, to me, like you just said, it is a good release if you just, and be honest. There's not enough people around being open and honest, because everyone has those sorts of things happen in life.
Write about it. It's one of the best feelings in the world, and you'll be amazed what comes out of you writing. And the viewer, or such as myself or anyone else for that matter, reading it, there's this emotional journey as they're reading and they're actually feeling the fight, and they understand. It's very easy for someone to say, oh, Melina lost that fight anyway, let's move on.
Yeah, that's it.
You know?
She fought shit.
But you know what? I'm more interested in, Melina might have lost that fight, but did she really lose that fight within? You know? And the thing is, you didn't. Because within inside, you actually won. Somewhere along the line, you've won.
Yeah.
It might not be statistically on a record, but that's one of the key reasons why I write about my fights. I want people to know. I want people to understand that the journey's tough, that the journey could be lonely, the journey could be great. You know, I could be on a high today, I could be down tomorrow. Irrespective, I need people to understand that. Because everyone wants to be a fighter, and everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
That's it.
This is brutal, this sport.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is brutal, and only the toughest survive. But I need, if it means that you train and become a fighter, great. If it means you train and become a better person, even better.
That's it. Yeah, that's awesome.
So
yeah, can I ask you something as well? One thing that that I've sort of struggled with in my fight career, and I'm not sure if everyone goes through it or is it just certain people, but once you've had your fight, have you ever experienced the after fight, I guess, depression, people might call it, or the come down after the fight, the week after?
Well, I think you're probably using the wrong term. I wouldn't call it depression. It's more of the come down, meaning because it's such a massive build up. Yeah, because you're so used to it, you don't realise how big the build up is. The anxiety of, you know, even getting there, you know, even to the stage, you know, and then into the ring and so on. I don't think you understand or really take note of how big it is. You know, all those small, intricate things that you need to do before the fight, and then all of a sudden you don't need to do them. Your job's done.
Yeah, because it's a really empty, lonely feeling.
It is. And you know what's worse? And you're right. And it's worse when you do get beaten. Because you sort of look around and you think, where is everyone? Why aren't I getting a call? Or you'll get very few calls as opposed to when you win, you're getting... And I think, you know, it does happen. It does happen. But this is why I say to people, don't worry about walking in the ring with a big entourage. Surround yourself with great people. If that means 2 people in your life, be it. They're the best 2 people. Those 2 people are worth 1 million people around you.
Sure, yeah.
You know, you don't need hangers on. You know, and you've got to keep those people at arm's length. I'm not being disrespectful, you've got to keep those people at arm's length. And that's one of the greatest things I did throughout my whole career. Right. I gave everyone the time of day, but I kept those people that I needed, or they needed me, close to me. Yeah. And I made them part of my life, part of my career. And when I hurt, they hurt. Yeah. When I was happy, they were happy. I made sure they were happy, and vice versa. But they were the key people that kept me focused. And one of the ones was Graham Burke, my manager. Not because he was my manager, because he was a mentor. Yes. Right? And there was 3 things in life that I was afraid of losing if I stuffed up. One was my family, my career. Second was my family, right? And thirdly was my manager. Without those 3 things, I wouldn't be talking to you here today. Yeah. But they're the 3 things that kept me focused. Nothing to do with the money.
That's it. Yeah.
And that's the truth. Yeah. That is the truth. I knew that it'll all come. Money will come. Yep. If I can control these 3 and keep them there. And I understand what you're saying, that lull period after the fight would be worse if you lost, you know. Again, I think you need to rewind. After the fight, you need to take those 2 days off. And then if you want during that week, after the aftermath, is to rewind and think, okay, what happened? It was a win, yep. What did I do in the lead up to that? And I don't think we document that enough. Sure, yeah, yep. Do you understand? Or I lost, what did I do in the lead up to that? Or what didn't I do? You know, planning, preparation is a key element to positive mindset. Sure. You know, but you go to any, and I relate this to, you know, I was fortunate enough to work with, you know, in the earlier years with some of the special operations group, police here, tactical group, awesome. Going back in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s in my gym, and I knew just through them, just talking to them, they had the plan of attack, you know, and then they had a debrief straight after it. Yep. Why can't we do it? That's it. And I think there's not enough debriefing done besides great job. Yes. Yep. Forget that. Yep. And people always focus on just the fight rather than, like you said, no one's focusing on the... And that's what makes what makes a complete that's what makes a complete athlete or a complete team. Is someone who can give you a plan of attack, right? Have that meeting, so your plan of attack is this is what I want you to do. Have the fight, then after the fight, whether it be a day or 2 later, right, there's a debrief. Let's look at it. Let's find out what we did and what we do. It could be a week later. It doesn't matter. But let's do a debrief. And there's not enough of that. All I hear is great job. Next time we'll get this guy, or good win. No, you need a debrief. You've got to treat yourself, irrespective whether you're an amateur or a professional. You need to treat yourself as a professional. You need to treat it as a business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
So.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really good advice. I'm going to look at the time here. We're almost done an hour.
Oh,
do you need to get back to?
She's keeping me away from work.
Yeah, people are coming up wanting his help with things. I'm like, oh, sorry.
The finger work before I went.
There's been such a valuable conversation though, and I think that's going to help a lot of people out there. So thank you so much for your time and chatting with us. Can you let everyone know how they find you with your I'm a Fighter campaign and check out some of your fights as well?
Yeah, look, by all means, check out my website on www.samgreco.com.au, and also on that site itself is the I'm a Fighter campaign. So guys, feel free to check it out. Hit me up with any questions you've got. Love to answer whatever I can and help anyone out there. And thank you very much, Melina.
Awesome. Thank you. It's been awesome to meet you as well.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.